You're listening to Leadership Recalibrated, where we dismantle outdated leadership playbooks and explore the new way to lead. I'm Lori Lalonde, founder of Her Executive Ascent, and I created this podcast because I was tired of hearing the same recycled advice about what it takes to be a good leader. You know the scripts: be more confident, lean in, develop executive presence. But what if those scripts were written for a leadership model that no longer works? What if the future of leadership looks less like commanding authority and more like strategic influence, emotional intelligence, and authentic power? Each week, we take on the questions most leadership programs avoid, the power dynamics nobody teaches, and the decisions that actually shape your career. This is where you stop following the old rules and start designing the leadership career that fits who you are now and where you're going next. Let's recalibrate. On this episode, I sit down with wellness entrepreneur Julie Lafleur, who spent more than 2 decades operating inside high-performance corporate environments, including global roles at Microsoft. When burnout surfaced, it didn't end her ambition. It sparked a deeper curiosity about what truly sustains resilience, energy, and meaningful performance over the long term, and why self awareness is not a luxury for leaders, but a strategic advantage. Today, Julie works at the intersection of AI and human energy, helping women and corporate teams recognize the stress patterns that quietly shape how they lead before those patterns shape their leadership. She blends ancient wisdom with science informed tools and translates them into practical strategies for modern work. Julie also serves as an enterprise solutions lead with Impressa AI, where she supports women in building AI fluency and increasing their visibility in this defining technological era. Let's get into it. Hey, Julie, welcome. I'm so glad that you're joining us today.
Hi, Lori. Thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure.
I have been looking forward to this conversation. I think what you do is phenomenal. And you and I have had some experiences in working together in the past and recently, but recently is where I want to go with this. So, just for context for people listening, Julie and I were lucky enough to be paired up as facilitators, co facilitators for an Impressa event where we taught AI foundations for women. And I had previously worked with Julie at Microsoft. Our paths had crossed briefly, but not we didn't work together as deeply. And so that session that we got to co-facilitate together was absolutely so much fun. I learned so much about what you're doing now, and that's what inspired me to ask you to come to this podcast because I think this is something that will benefit every woman that's listening. So, tell me about your journey from the corporate world to building your current practice.
Thank you. I also loved co-facilitating with you, and I think that we just bring such complementary skills, and so it was just fun. So my journey, kind of from corporate to wellness, kind of started as many other corporate journeys do. I talk about being a recovering people pleaser, still in recovery, and high achiever. I was one of those who always worked hard and worked a lot and did my best. And accomplishing was super important to me. I won the gold club, I won the platinum club, I won, like, just always having people say, "Oh, yeah, she's awesome to work with," was kind of like just makes my heart so full, right? And that's kind of always how I've been. And it worked until it didn't work. So, as a mom of two busy boys who were in sports and all the activities, and my husband having chronic pain and having a demanding job, just all of those things would pile on my shoulders. And I would just do it because that's what we do. And, like they say, you put a frog in boiling water and it will jump out. But if you put a frog in room temperature water and you just, turn the heat up gradually, they won't jump out even though the water is boiling. And I kind of felt like when I had my burnout, that's what happened. And so, yeah, I just got to the point where what I was doing wasn't working anymore. And so I had to take some time away. But I'm so grateful for that and for that time, because I got to rest and restore and learn about things that I never even knew existed. I got to think about what I wanted to do and how I wanted to feel, which I was like, "Wow, I can't believe I'm 40," and just realizing now that I get to want to feel certain way, and I get to prioritize and do some of the things that I want to do and not just take care of others and do things for others, and so that brought me to learning a bunch of tools and techniques to help with stress and emotions and well being. And I learned so much about them, and they had such a great effect on me that now I teach them to others. So I feel really grateful for that and the path that it took me on.
So much to unpack there. There's so many things I wanna just kinda go
Yes,
back to,
let's
but
do
I'm
it.
sure I'm gonna miss something.
Okay.
So for anyone listening, context, Gold Club, Platinum Club, these are very high profile awards in, Microsoft, and they are very rare to win, because you are competing with so many other nominations, and you have to be nominated by your peers and your leaders in order to even be considered. So to get the nomination is already a feat, and then to win and multiple times, Julie, congratulations, is huge, right? It's a huge deal. So that just speaks to the tenacity of the work that you did, and it just speaks to how you showed up, and you did your best. You were kicking butt.
Day.
And then here's the common denominator that I hear in all of this, because I had a similar guest, Amy, on recently who talked about corporate, working and working and working and then hit burnout and had to take that time away. So I love that you took that time for yourself to really reset. At the same time, I'm sad and sorry that it gets to the point where you could say, I'm 40 and it's like, I get to do what I want. Why did we have to wait till we were 40? Why?
Yeah.
Because I'm 50, well, 51 now, sorry. And I just came to that realization 8, 9 months ago
Right.
where I'm like, this is not the environment that is serving me anymore. I need to do something different. I walked away from it. I knew that I wanted to do something that had more impact, that felt really or closely aligned with my values and that I could be proud of. And I
Uh-huh.
didn't feel like that anymore in corporate. Like that magic was gone. And also hearing you say that, I'm like, yeah, why did we wait so long? What was it that kept you going for so long? Because that's a really long time to be chugging away in corporate life
Yeah.
before deciding, you know what, I'm going to do something that really resonates with me and is more aligned with me.
It's a very good question. What took me so long? I think it was really just like autopilot and, I don't want to say head in the sand, but it was just kind of like it's what we did. I mean, I come from a family of two really hardworking parents, and it's just the work ethic is incredible and it's something to be proud of. And so I just did it because that's what I thought we could and should do. And I think what you said is so important. It's like, did not align with my values anymore. It wasn't purposeful. It didn't bring me joy. And so when I think about those things, like when I was working really myself into kind of a burnout, I didn't realize that I was not happy. I did not realize that I didn't feel like this was purposeful because at one time it did feel purposeful and I am a happy person and so it did feel joy. And when I was able to experience things on my rest and restore stage, then I really felt what like, ooh, I really like to learn. I really like to do certain things. And then I got that feeling in my heart. And I feel like once you feel that again, it's really hard to go back to things that make you not experience that on a daily basis. And so I'm not really sure why I waited so long. Yeah, I think it was just like I didn't know any better and I didn't know the contrast. Does that make
And
sense?
absolutely. And no way did I mean it to come across as like, what took you so long?
No, no,
It
no, no. It's like it's a great question,
Be
obviously.
because I think about my journey too, and it's like, why did it take me to this point? For me, it was a similar upbringing. Like, my parents were very hard workers, we didn't come from a lot, and the holy grail was to have a white collar job that you had a steady salary and you made a good amount of money and that was considered successful. It didn't matter if what you were doing wasn't fulfilling because they were factory workers. So what they were doing wasn't fulfilling either.
Yeah.
All they were doing was paying the bills, raising children, and just trying to keep their heads above water. So
Yeah.
they wanted us to be in a position to find a job that we not only could do those things, but also save for our retirement and have some financial stability. And I
Yeah.
understand that, but that's the environment we grew up in. It's all about getting your education, finding that high paying job with the title, and then moving up in the ranks. And that was just what was considered to be developing a career. And entrepreneurial mindsets weren't celebrated as much as they are today.
Mhm.
They were very risky
Yeah.
and you needed to have a good support system, if you especially if you were starting out from nothing. So and women generally don't take those risks. It's very rare. I mean, I do have women in my family who are entrepreneurs. My aunt was a business owner, so they followed in her footsteps and then they created their own businesses, and I'm so proud of them for that. And the rest of the family, we were all programmed or, led to believe that the only way to success was a white collar job at a big name company.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I am grateful for the work ethic that my parents instilled in me because it got me a ton of success, and I'm glad that my journey took me the way it did because now I know that my purpose and really I'm designed to. Like you and I have talked a bit about human design, and for those of you listening, if you don't know what human design, it's not like human design systems, or it's not a methodology. It's an actual, I don't even know how to describe it. It's kind of like your internal map. It's based on astrology and other things. Anyway, I know that I am based on this designed to experience and then deeply learn and then teach others who don't want to go through the effort of deeply learning themselves. Like there are people here who are just like, tell me what the best practices is. And so I know that I'm designed and my purpose here is to do that. And so when I look back and I experience that, I remember the point where it was maybe a year after my burnout. I was taking a walk and I was working with a coach, and the coach said, you need to put a video online about your story. And I was like pooping my pants. Like, I did not want to do that. I don't want to do video. I don't want to like, bleh. She's like, just do it. Just do it. So I was taking a walk and I had my phone and I just started telling my story about what I went through, where I've been, and I'm on the other side and all of this kind of stuff. And then I remember posting it as I was going to my son's um, class trip. So I just like, oh, I'm just gonna do it, post it, and then forget about it. Within the 4 hours or whatever that I was gone, when I looked back, I posted it on LinkedIn, and it had like 2,000 views or
Amazing.
something ridiculous. I thought to myself, okay, I've hit a chord. And then, like, within a week or something, it had, like, 10,000 views or it was just astronomical, and I remember people calling me or messaging me and telling me that I was brave for talking about it, that I was brave for stepping away, and all of this, and I was like, "My gosh," because I felt so much shame in it. I remember telling my therapist when I was in recovery, I was like, "Why do I feel like I can't keep up and everybody around me is doing it? Like, I used to be able to do it. Why can't I do it?" And she just said to me, "How do you know? How do you know that they are keeping up? Like, maybe they're suffering in silence and you're the one putting your hand up saying, I can't do this anymore." And that really stayed with me. And I was like, huh. And then I posted that video and then, it had so many views. So I was like, huh. And then people were calling me or messaging me, telling me, that it had happened to them too. And still to this day, I get people kind of out of nowhere that I cross path with at a certain point or worked with at a certain point, and they just tell me like, "Thank you for sharing this. I see myself in your story like so many times." And so I really think that part of me wasn't like doing it for so long for any other reason other than that was what I was meant to learn and then help others through. Does that make sense?
Well, yeah, absolutely. And your story definitely is something that I'm starting to see that is a common thread. People that are still in corporate spaces and the traditional roles, they are overworked, overwhelmed, tired, burnt out, and yet they keep moving forward until one point they just can't.
Yeah.
Whether they hit a wall and they have to take leave, or whether they decided to find a new opportunity elsewhere that maybe is not as fast paced or highly ambiguous or whatever the issue is.
Mhm.
But it's a common thread. Everyone's experiencing it. It is prevalent in the corporate world. And the faster technology moves, the expectation for people to move along with it at that pace has kind of enabled that environment.
Mhm.
And I
Or
I just
expectations.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I can relate to that so well. I just decided I didn't wanna do it anymore,
Mhm.
and I at first, I was like, "I just don't wanna do it at this company anymore," because I was still in that mindset of, "I'll just go somewhere else and it'll be different," even though for 30 years, I was doing that and it never got better.
Yeah.
It never got better. There just was that point that you hit where it's like, you
Like,
just
"Oh, this feels familiar."
can't do it anymore, right? Because you just see the obstacles and the impossible asks, and that they just keep growing and the expectations keep growing. And I was always one to push back and say, that's not realistic. Here's the scope of what can be done, and here's what we need to deprioritize. If you feel differently, that's great. If we're going to add more in, we have to take some out. And just kind of
Mhm.
always challenging and pushing back against status quo, regardless of what the topic was. That's just my nature. But I realized I was just like, "I'm not gonna change this from the inside." And so for me, I left for my own well-being, and as I was looking for new roles, I was, working on what is currently my business now on the side, just building it up. And during that time, I just decided as I was interviewing for these other roles, no, I wasn't excited about that. I was just focused on I want to spend more time building up the program that I was creating and just go all in. And so I took a risk and bet on myself and decided, you know what, I'm going to give myself a good year and a half, maybe 2 years to get this off the ground. But I need to be doing this. And essentially, it's my way of trying to enable and empower women to
Yeah.
start setting the stage in corporate and start really enabling their strategic thought leadership, unlocking their superpowers, as well as, like, obviously, the hard skills in organizations that aren't generally taught in women leadership programs. When you think about crisis leadership, board readiness, AI strategy and governance, financial acumen, these are the things women in middle management need, and they're not getting in training. And my thought is because I want them to go through this program, and when they come out of this program, throughout the course, I want to reinforce that we are not following the old playbook. We are starting with a new playbook, and they're going to be the ones to write that new playbook because I'd love to see that on a broader scale, the women stepping up and changing the face of corporate because as it stands now, it is unsustainable across the board, across gender, across race, across everything. It is unsustainable. It's not just unique to women, but women do try to shoulder a lot at once,
Mhm.
and we do it in silence.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely. And then we are resentful of it.
yes.
Which is like somebody once told me, like, resentment is like paying a mortgage for a house that you will never own, or like drinking poison and expecting somebody else to die, you know? And
Yes.
I find, I don't wanna make any broad statements about, like, it's a woman thing. It's definitely something that I struggle with because I'm a yes, or I have been a yes person, working on that. Yes, 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 no problem, I'll do it. And then you can't help but feel resentful because the energy exchange is not there. And that is what I found is so important, is that energy exchange, or whatever you wanna call it, currency. Everybody has a different currency, something that is important to them. And if they're not getting that, then it stops them from feeling valued. And when you feel valued, that is like the gas that fuels the car, right? Like when humans, that's what we want. We want to feel valued, acknowledged, and then that kicks in your intrinsic motivation where you're like, I will do anything for this person if I feel valued and empowered and trusted and celebrated. And so all of these are ingredients to what kind of the next level of leadership and humanity needs to embrace in order to evolve corporate culture.
Yeah. That's so heavy and deep.
Yeah.
It's so deep.
Sorry.
No, I love it. I love it. This is exactly the conversation I love having, but
Yes.
it's so necessary and it will resonate with people that are listening because it's a real struggle. It's something real that we are contending with and people may be at different stages,
Mhm.
but at the end of the day, it's all going to catch up with the people that are still there. It will. And so you introduced me to human design.
Oh, yes.
And that was the best part about it because when you introduced me to human design, so I could learn more about myself, at the time, I thought you were talking about human centered design.
Yes.
And so when you had said that, I'm like, oh, yeah, I
I
learned
get
about
it.
that
Yeah.
back at our old job, and you're like, no, 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 no,
Yeah.
it's this other thing instead. And so immediately, like, piqued my curiosity. I went online, found a way to like figure out what my human design is, and I'm a generator. And so I dug into because there's so many other aspects
Oh my gosh.
besides the broad sweeping term of generator.
Yep.
And so as I dug into it, the thing that I learned is that apparently I was supposed to suffer from like my whole life to
Mm.
now to then be able to use whatever I've learned through this experience to help others.
Are you a six? Is that a six?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
yeah, and it's so interesting. Whether
Mhm.
you buy into it or not, for anyone listening, I encourage you to just go look into what your human design is and just read through it and see what resonates with you, and if it doesn't, that's great, but if it does, it's just so interesting when you can read about it and you see it on paper, and it gives you some clarity about where your focus is and what
Sure.
really aligns with you.
Well, and it's very validating because it talks about like your purpose and how you show up. Anyway, we can have like a whole other podcast on like human design specifically, but it definitely is very validating and yeah, just great to kind of get to know yourself. I also love and teach a different framework to be able to get to know yourself as well. And I've learned this through the training that I've done through Eden Method for energy medicine. But it's the 5 element framework from traditional Chinese medicine, which I love. And I love talking about how this framework that is so ancient is applicable in our current day. It's kind of like the most ancient personality assessment, and we all have one or two dominant elements, and it influences how we show up, how stress shows up from an emotional perspective and in our body, and how we can help to move some of that energy to be more clear and feel better. And it also helps us to have more compassion for others. Because once you start to learn about it, then you can be like, "Oh, they're showing up this way because they're in stress and this is that type of element. And so I'm not going to lash out at them for that. I'm going to have compassion because I understand where they're coming from." It also helps in communication. Anyway, my point is that I think that leadership and a huge component of leadership is self awareness. And the better you know yourself, the better you can support and enable others to do their best work. That is the way that I work with people nowadays, is like to better help them understand themselves, what that means for their well being, and then how they support their people, whether it's their families, the people they work with, their children themselves. Yeah, so I love that you brought up human design and that it really resonated for you. There's the 5 elements. There's also, I know some people do Enneagram, and there's like all of these other things, which we've been doing in business for years, right? Like
Yeah.
think about DISC,
Yep.
Myers Briggs, and Strength Finders. Like how many times have we done those? And so I love these other frameworks or modalities because they bring in some of the not just spiritual, but how things actually show up in your life, how you react. They really put a mirror up, and then you can get curious, right? and you can be reflective and be like, I do show up that way when I'm in stress. Okay. And then when you start to feel the triggers either in your body or, emotionally, then you can be like, huh, okay, I'm aware of it. And maybe I won't react my default way, which is, anger or fear or sadness or panic or whatever that is. And you could just be more self aware, and then choose a reaction versus being on autopilot and then dealing with the effects, and the collateral damage of how you react and stress afterwards. So that's how I love to apply kind of ancient practices to modern, um, systems in simple and practical ways. Like it's not about, nobody's got an extra hour in the day to be able to do things. So how can we integrate some of these things?
I'm fascinated by it. There's a similarity there in what you're saying that you do, and in the type of therapy work that I've, spent a lot of money on in
Uh-huh.
order to get to that self-awareness, right? And I mean, I literally like years and years and years of therapy to get to a healthier outlook, right? Because I did grow up in a very volatile, I would say, environment. Just because my parents were immigrants, they were working in fight or flight mode.
Yeah.
That anxiety and stress translated or imprinted onto me when I went into the workforce, and I ended up with 2 kids early in, before I even started my career. I was operating in fight or flight mode, and it just continued on for so long until, I started therapy, and even after therapy, I still hit burnout, and then I had to seek other types of interventions like, medication and things like that, which I am very open about because I think it's so important that we don't stigmatize that.
Absolutely.
And so I've always been an open book. I think about the journey that I've been on over the years, and the person I am now is far different than the person I was 10, 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And I think, wow, how much healthier would I have been
Mhm.
holistically had I done that a lot sooner in my life? And so to me, I can't say enough about how much I embrace that type of work. And so when people come to you to work with you, what is the difference between what they would seek out in, say, like a therapy session? Because therapy sessions give you the frameworks and the tools and put you in that space to reflect on how you react in situations and give you the tools to react appropriately or emotionally regulate. I'd love to learn more about the difference between what that looks like versus what you do.
Yeah. I love that question. I think that the main difference is that I follow the energy, like what is your body's energy sharing versus what are the words that are coming out of your mouth. Just for reference, I do muscle testing like they would in kinesiology. And then, yeah, I just follow the body's energy. And then based on your dominant elements of traditional Chinese medicine, it's so cool how whatever the body says, I can assess something and then I come up and I just say, oh, I see this happening. And this could be related to, and I start to connect some of the dots just based on that framework. And people are like, how do you even know that? And yes, of course, this happens. So just to give you an example, there's the 5 elements, obviously water, wood, fire, earth, and metal. And each of those elements have different meridians. So meridians are pathways in the body that carry energy, much like veins carry blood. And so if you've ever seen like an acupuncturist, they use meridians and points on the meridians with their needles. And so, say for example, with water, the 2 meridians are kidney and bladder. And so for people who are dominant in the water element, when I talk to them and we assess the flow of energies and something is off in kidney or bladder, or I'll say like this could be where you're physiologically vulnerable. And then they'll be like, yeah, like I get kidney infections all the time. It's like,
Wow.
what? Like and every time it never ceases to amaze me, like all of the dots that are connected and how much this makes sense to the person. And so I guess to answer your question, how is it different? I follow the flow of the energy and then I give simple techniques that you can do that are body based. So somatic is a word that a lot of people use to describe that. And so I use the body and teach others to use the body to move through emotion or anything that doesn't feel great. So it's more body based. Does that make sense?
That's amazing. Yes. Yes, it does. At least to me, it does. I love those types of natural therapies and body work. I think that's fascinating. How do you know which element somebody is?
I have an assessment online actually. And so you just answer some questions and then you'll get an email back with kind of what your dominant elements are and what that kind of means in terms of how you show up in life. And then also what are some quick reset tools that you can use if you need them or kind of feel out of alignment or that your energy is drained and you don't know why. So you can do that assessment. Also, you can use muscle testing, and the very best way to determine your dominant element is really how you show up in stress. What is your dominant emotion? So, when people who are dominant in water are stressed, they feel fear. If you're a dominant wood element, it is anger or frustration. For fire, it is panic. For earth, it is worrying, over worrying, especially about other people, if you over worry about other people. And then metal is sadness or grief or even detachment. Like you could feel detached, like you want to detach from others or detach from emotions. You're more about thinking than you are really about feeling any emotion in stress. And so you can have multiple dominant ones, but typically everybody has like a go-to emotion when they get stressed. Either they get mad or they get scared. Yeah.
I'm Lebanese, so it's always anger.
It's funny, and I can see the wood in you because wood is all about being a visionary, being fearless. It's about doing, it's about accomplishing, it's about justice, especially for the underdog, and it's about confidence. And so I can see the wood in you. Liver and gallbladder are the meridians for uh wood, so I don't know if you ever have any issues
Not
with.
yet, knock on wood. I'll take the assessment though through you. I'll go on your website and take it,
Yeah, that'd be
and then
fun.
I'll see if that lines up. Because definitely that does sound very well aligned to me holistically, and very interesting that you could pick up on that. So, yeah, I'll take that, assessment and see what I get back.
Well, and I love to teach it in a corporate setting.
Yes.
And so I do that. I teach and then we do pairings, because waters are all about like great ideas. They're like an idea machine when they're in balance and they're super creative. And then wood is all about doing. And so if you pair up, say you have like a product launch or something and you want to be super creative, you get your water dominant element people kind of ideating and then you get your wood people to like put that in a spreadsheet like and then
Love.
your metal people who are all about structure to build the project plan and to do the contracts. And so I love applying this super ancient framework to kind of how we live in the modern day. And people love it. They love to see themselves and get to know each other. It's pretty fun. So I have the assessment that I'll send to you so that you can take. And then if anybody wants to then follow up, I give like a short consultation after if you want to kind of debrief on what that means and unpack what that means. So that's available as well.
So cool. And I love that you're doing this with organizations because I think this would be such a wonderful exercise to do and to understand really the team that you're working in, understand every person
Yeah,
individually, how they, how they show up at their best and what their strengths are. But also, I feel it will also help leaders understand how to support their
absolutely.
team members, right? And understanding their elements.
Absolutely. If you are a leader and you know that somebody is dominant water and you know that fear is that stress element, if anything's happening in the work world, you can preempt that and make sure that that person, how are you feeling with these changes? And you don't have to have a degree in the five elements or even a psychology degree to even just ask somebody how they're doing, knowing that, you know, they could be fearful in these moments. And if you know that somebody anger is their kind of go-to, that just helps you in terms of, okay, so how do I communicate these things? Maybe I send it over email first and then say, let's talk about this to give them time or whatever it is, right? Like, just how do we apply some of this knowledge to our communication and interpersonal relationship strategies?
Oh, yeah, that is awesome. I think that would have served me well on so many teams. For me to understand the teams I'm working with, as well as the people I report to,
Absolutely.
but then for them to understand me too, because especially in my early days, I'm like, because I have a sense of justice and
Yeah.
because I'm very analytical as well, there are things like I think, oh, this could be done more efficiently. And there would be some pretty heated debates. You know, if you can imagine in software development on male dominated teams, when the woman has an idea, nobody wants to hear it. And boy, I was quick to anger. And it was just words, right? Like I was just very cutting with my words because in those environments I felt like that was the only way I could be taken seriously.
Yeah.
And it would have been healthier to have a Julie come in and do that work and then have us learn how we work with each other based on the knowledge of those,
Mhm.
their element. That would have been a much healthier way to go through the world, not just like in corporate life or at work, but
Yeah.
even at home to understand yourself. I think I would have definitely shown up differently or had that self awareness a lot sooner in life with not as much money spent on therapy. I still would do therapy,
Oh,
but
yeah.
I
I
don't
believe
think
in
it
it
would have
fully.
taken me as long to
Everybody needs a therapist,
yeah.
honestly.
Oh,
It's
I
like
love it. Yeah.
you need that third party unbiased person to replay back to you what you're
Yes.
saying, even if it's just mirroring,
Yeah.
like to have somebody play that back. Like, honestly, I love therapy. So
Yes.
good.
But what you do definitely helps cultivate that self-awareness. And then if someone can cultivate that self-awareness and show up differently and in a healthier way for their team members and understanding all of their elements, but also for themselves, then even when they do therapy, like I said, it would short circuit the amount of time to even get to that place before you can continue to make progress. Because a lot of my time in the early days of therapy was really peeling back the layers of the onion to really even understand myself
Yeah.
and to really have that awareness of, because the only emotion I knew was anger. And I literally had to have the emotions wheel printed
Yeah.
out.
Yeah. You have lots of options.
I was told that beyond the anger, there's always emotions underneath the anger. Anger's never
Right.
the main emotion. And I had to really get honest and vulnerable with what was driving that anger. And that was hard for me to do because I felt like if I verbalized that, then that would be used to take advantage of like my
Mhm.
vulnerability. And
Yeah.
I would absolutely did not want to be vulnerable, especially in corporate world.
Yeah.
So it took a long time. I love that what you do, and the fact that you do that with organizations and make that available, I think is so valuable. And then for organizations that don't work with you, do you still work one-on-one with individuals as well?
Yeah, definitely. I work one
Awesome.
on one with people. Yeah, I agree. I think it's so valuable even just to know. And then people undoubtedly then take this and apply this to their personal life and apply this to their partner. And so it's such a holistic tool because it's for life. It's not just me as an employee or me and so it's so transferable. I love what you said, so much to unpack there. Like, you were probably, when you were quick to anger, you were in a stressful situation, right? And so you felt threatened, right? And we feel these emotions in our body before we can even have awareness in our brain about it. And this goes back because, our operating system, if you will, was built between the ages of like 0 and 6. And so everything that we heard, felt, were a part of, even if we don't remember, that helped to build our beliefs, our values, what we think, and what we think of other people or scenarios. And we don't even have, like, that's encoded in us. Like, we don't see that code.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people think like anxiety or if it is a thoughts challenge. If I can get my thoughts under control, if I could just control my thoughts or control my anger, but these things happen in the body and then they trigger a reaction that was built in your operating system. So if you were also surrounded by people who that's like how they communicated, you learned very young that, oh, when this happens, you yell. When this happens, you yell. And so you don't even think through, like, oh, I'm going to yell or I should not yell
Yeah.
because before you know it, it's happening. And so the work that I do, separate than the 5 element work, I also work on emotional freedom technique or tapping. And so that's like tapping on acupressure points in the body to help remove stuck energy, and some of that work then brings you back into, because it's like, where does this come from? Like, I don't even know where this comes from. And then you have a memory that pops up in your awareness so that you can then go back and repattern that so that the charge is different. So I'll give you an example. One time, and this person has said that I could share this story. So I was tapping with somebody who was tapping on they were feeling very anxious. And it was the time where there was a lot of the fires, the forest fires. And so it was very smoky. They lived in a high rise building, so they could see a lot of the smoke. The news was triggering as it is kind of just a new normal. But
Yeah.
this kind of at the beginning when, news started to be very inflammatory. And they're like, yeah, okay, but I don't know why I'm so anxious. I have this level of constant anxiety. So we tapped. And then after a few rounds, I said, does any memory or anything come up for you? Are you thinking of anything? And she's like, no. And then not even 1 minute later, she's like, actually, I just had this thought pop up and I don't even know why or if it even is true because I would have been so young, but I was in a, a different country and I can see the TV is going and there's tons of smoke outside and my dad is taping the balcony, and on the TV it's saying like we're about to be bombed. And so she was living in the Gulf War at that time when the war was happening. And so we just tapped through that, and tapping sends calming signals to the brain. So you're just tapping on certain acupressure points as you're feeling in your body where you feel that emotion. And so we tapped that out and down, and she felt so much better after the session. And then she went back and asked her mom. And so she came back like a week later and she's like, you'll never guess. Like, my mom said, I don't even know how you remember that. You would have been like 2 years old. And
Wow.
and what you kind of saw or whatever it felt. So that had been living in her body. So, I mean, the body does keep the score if you've ever read or heard about that book,
Yep.
because a lot of emotions, it hasn't been really safe in our society to feel them, or hasn't been really safe to be angry. There's
Yeah.
this connotation around like, oh, so angry, and when really emotions are just energy in motion. They're meant to be that 6 second of the chemical in your body that goes out to send signals to your brain in your body to keep you safe. And we're really supposed to pass it within, 60 to 90 seconds, but we like to hold them hostage by revisiting them over and over and over again. Or we stuff them down because we say, like, we can't cry, we can't be angry, it's not safe or it's not good. Anyways, so with tapping, you can help to release those emotions. And I say that tied to leadership because we might not really understand as leaders why we react a certain way. And so it's really going down that self discovery. And it doesn't have to be with tapping, it could be any other kind of modality or coaching that really helps to uncover why you have these patterns, where they came from, and then kind of what to do about them. And if you're on a self discovery journey and you're open to learning and you're curious, that is the type of leader that I want to be working for because then they will be supportive in me and my journey and more open and understanding. So that's kind of how I see those worlds connecting.
I love that. I think that is so important, and I think this is something everyone definitely needs in their day to day and to understand more about themselves, and I love the lens of with the leaders being able to understand how they support the people that work for them or work
Mhm.
with them. I should not say for them, work with them, because I hate saying that. Teams don't work for a leader, they work with a leader. And I just hate that concept of working for. I think that's so powerful, and it could help with a lot of, that the misunderstanding in the workplace that can happen because somebody just rubs you the wrong way and you don't know why.
Totally.
Oh my goodness.
Well, and especially with so much being in chat and online and not like actual face to face or in somebody else's energy where you can know where things got off track or you get body language that says, "Oh, I think maybe there was a misunderstanding," or, there's not as much of that now. So,
Yeah.
yeah, just being really mindful of kind of what triggers you and what your patterns are and when things have gone awry in the past. Is there a
Yeah.
common pattern there? And what's behind that?
I love this so much. And I think that a lot of the burnout that we see and experience in the workplace can be attributed to that dynamic of feeling misunderstood and not understanding the other person and the stress that it causes across teams, people. A lot of that is like human dynamics, right? And that's really where the stressors are. The work itself is not the hard part.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, and it's really all of these emotions that are in play, and, I like to think of it as, like, everybody's bringing this invisible backpack into work every day, or everybody has their own unique glasses, the lens in which they see life that carries all of the experiences that they've had, and that's how they see life, right? But if you can be regulated and come from a place of calm instead of a reactive place, that it's easier to sort through kind of the difficult relationship or communication pieces. And in the world of so much stress at work, it's really hard to come into situations from a calm, clear perspective.
Yeah. I can attest to that.
Yes.
That's
Yep.
phenomenal. Wow, we've had such a good conversation, and I could go on. We could have this chat all day because I'm always fascinated in human dynamics, but also how we each play a role in that,
Yeah.
and, like and that self-awareness piece. I love that. I always like to end the episode by asking, one question. And so I'll get to it. Based on everything that you've seen with working with leaders and organizations or even people one-on-one and working in wellness, if there is one old leadership rule from the corporate playbook that you would love to retire, what is it and what would you replace it with?
Yeah, I mean, so many. I think one is this, and I think we're getting there, and I think there's still some out there where it's like the whole command and control type of leadership. It doesn't work. That's not how you get people on board. It doesn't inspire people. People don't want to feel like they are being told what to do. They want to feel empowered and valued and acknowledged. That is one. And then another is just the whole, and I think this is also retiring only because with AI things are moving so fast and so many different perspectives are opening up. But I don't love the, we've always done it that way perspective,
Yeah.
or doing things for the sake of doing or process for the sake of process. I love being open and curious and the question like what else is possible here. I love
Yes.
that whole like ideating and building on each other. So I would love to retire just anything that you're doing because you've always done it that way.
Love. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
on board with that too.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
Amy, and I don't know if you've had a chance to listen to any of the episodes. Another podcast guest, she had said that too.
Yes.
We've
Love
always
that.
done it this way. That can go. So that's two votes for we've
Right.
always done it this way. Has to let's get that out of the corporate playbook.
Absolutely.
But the command and control too, because there was a period of time where the servant leadership model was really prevalent, and that is really the style that I like to, lead with. It's like I said, I always would tell my team, you don't work for me, I work for you.
Mm.
I'm here to help you excel in your role, be successful in your career, grow, and challenge you in different ways and support you when things don't go well. That's how I would show up as a leader, and that's because that's aligns with my values. Lately, we're seeing a resurgence of the command and control, and it is frustrating.
Mhm.
It makes me angry because
Yep.
it doesn't work.
No.
And it just contributes to more stress, more mental health issues, more burnout, and it doesn't motivate people to want to do more. Instead, they do less and they're disengaged, and
Uh-huh.
they don't do things as well.
Uh-huh. Yeah, everybody's reactive in that, and I really think that that comes from a place of fear.
Yes,
You know,
absolutely.
when you're like, "Ugh, I'm fearful that they won't do what I want them to, or they won't listen, or so I'm gonna try to, like, demand that they do it in a certain way." I truly
Yeah,
feel like that comes from a place of fear, and that needs to be let go for sure.
yeah, 100%. I agree. I agree. And I think anyone that works with you is going to benefit tremendously. And I think every organization should be looking you up, reaching out to you, and getting you booked in. So, how can people reach out to you if they want to work with you?
Yes, I have a website, julielaf.com, JULIELAF, and that actually comes from like, Julie Laugh was my alias at Microsoft.
I love it.
And so it was kind of like a nod to, I learned so much there, and I am still connected with amazing people that work there. It shaped my life in so many different ways, and it's the reason I am doing what I'm doing now. So julielaugh.com is my website, and just check me out on LinkedIn. Like, I love to post about how ancient wisdom can help influence modern leadership. So connect with me through there. That'd be awesome.
Awesome. Well, thank you for taking time to chat with me today, Julie. This was a wonderful conversation. I appreciate you.
Absolutely. It was my pleasure. It was so much fun. And thank you for what you're doing. It's really important.
The leadership advice that got many women this far will not necessarily get them where they want to go next. This phase of your career is not about working harder. It's about working strategically by deciding which rules still apply and which ones you are finally ready to outgrow. If this conversation resonated, stay with us. Subscribe to the podcast and join me here every Sunday for new episodes. And if it gave you language for something you've been carrying quietly, share it with another woman in your network who needs to hear it too. Until next time, lead with intention, question everything, and change the rules for the better. I'm Lori Lalonde, and this is Leadership Recalibrated.